Welcome to the Coda Podcast. I'm Rue from Rue Films, and today I'll be chatting with Hannah MacGregor from Hannah MacGregor Photo and Film. A wedding photographer for over 17 years, Hannah has evolved her business and is now a super successful hybrid shooter, offering photo and video combination packages, all shot by her as a solo shooter. Despite the logistical nightmare of performing such a feat, Hannah is still able to deliver her trademark style of photography, full of energy, joy and heart, whilst also creating amazing highlight films that adopt these same principles. In this chat, we break down how she's able to deliver two amazing products without compromise, delving into her invaluable communication process with a couple pre-wedding, and also the nuts and bolts of how she's able to become both a photographer and a videographer on the wedding day itself. Hi Hannah.
Hi.
How are you, mate? You okay?
Good, yeah.
Hannah, I was so keen to get you on this podcast because you're an incredible hybrid shooter, which is, there's a growing trend at the minute, isn't there, with people doing a bit of both, doing photo and video at weddings. And what you deliver, from what I've seen, is absolutely phenomenal. Usually I expect with hybrid there to be compromise, but seeing the films you deliver, it doesn't feel like there's much compromise there at all. So I really wanted to get you on so I can grill you.
Get in my brain.
How on earth you're achieving this. But yeah, to get started, just to get us warmed up, I'm just going to throw a few quick questions at you. We can expand into it if you want a little
Okay.
bit.
So do my answers need to be fairly quick too?
Not really. No, not really. No, it's up to you. Is there something that we feel is interesting to bomb on about? But a lot of these questions are the things that people just want to know instantly, kind of stuff. So getting them out of the way, basically. So like the first one's quite straightforward. How many weddings do you film on average a year? So I guess like doing both your hybrid.
It's not every single one. Probably 80% of the weddings that I shoot will book me for both. And it's certainly the thing that kind of gets people to my website, of kind of knowing that I am able to do both. So yeah, I think I've got 12 already booked for next year, and 9 of them have booked for me to do both.
Yeah. And how many in total do you do on a year generally? Like, as in how many weddings in total?
This is my 17th year of shooting weddings, and I think the max I ever did was 48, and I was pregnant with my second born, who's about to turn 14 in 2010.
Wow.
I shot 48 weddings pregnant. Don't recommend that to your friends. But I think because I do a lot of corporate and a lot of newborn and family shoots, I kind of try and max out about 20-25 weddings.
That's a nice number, isn't it? And does that change? Does that number change based on how many you shoot in hybrid? If you do a lot more hybrid,
No. Just what comes through the website, what kind of comes through the door that year. I don't try and tend to shoot back-to-backs anymore because my knees are nearly 44 and not 25 anymore. So I find it a lot harder. And if you're doing photos and films, like trying to kind of like get your headspace then to do that again the following day, unless I've got a second shooter, which I post-COVID had to kind of do some back-to-backs, and I would take a second shooter, which I don't normally do. But the ones when I had to do a double, then I'd have someone with me.
I imagine just even the mental fatigue of trying to do both roles on a day is insane, let alone the physical.
Yeah, your brain is on overdrive the whole day because you cannot miss a beat. It really is a kind of, you've got to nail it. You've got to know what you're doing as a photographer to have the headspace to be able to do video too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to diving into detail with you. So boring question, but we like to know this. What cameras are you using?
I have always been a Canon girl. So for like 17 years, I've always shot Canon. And then when the R6s came out, I bought one thinking, I'll keep my Mark III. I have it on a harness as well. I'm like, I'll have one here and one here. And then the first wedding where I shot with the R6, I was like, I can't have a camera that feels like a Ferrari and then one that feels like a clapped out banger that might stall on the M25. So I instantly bought a second R6.
It's horrible having two different cameras, isn't it? It's nice to have some consistency.
I think for shooting photos and film, I think it would almost be impossible if they're not the same cameras, because I shoot both on both.
Are you using both cameras to shoot photo and video? How do you work it, like from a physical point of view?
I'm like a one-man band when I turn up at a wedding. I don't want to ever have to return to my car unless I have to, like during dinner, like when I've actually got a moment. So I use a ginormous bum bag. I don't know if they've called the Betty bags. They're from, I think the website's like 14, the word, and then .04. And it's literally, it's ginormous. It's like a small camera bag that sits on my waist.
Fanny pack.
Yeah, quite literally. And that has a couple of lenses in it and a flash, maybe if I know I'm going to need a flash. But I'll also have my mics and batteries, cards, anything with me. And that way, because then I'll shoot on 2 cameras, I'll tend to have 35 on one, 85 on the other. I did recently, here's one I made earlier, purchase the 2870 to fit.
Is that the F2?
Yeah, the F2. And since I've got that, I have used it a lot. So that's become a bit of a kind of, that stays on one and then I'll kind of swap up what's on the other camera. But because I need variety in shots for both the photos and the video clips, I don't want to be doing one for one, like every video clip on a 35mm and every photo on a 50mm, because I'm not going to have the variety when it comes to putting the video together. So I try and whatever the focal length fits is what I will also try and do the filming at too.
Oh, okay. So yeah, because I didn't know whether you'd want to take the photo version of a scene of a moment in a certain focal length and then the video in another, so there's difference, but you'd prefer to have it kind of similar and cohesive.
Basically, it's like my photos are coming to life.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to reinvent the wheel with a video clip, because that's much harder, because then you're trying to be 2 different minds and 2 different heads. If you're just being a photographer who can make a photo come to life to 5 to 7 seconds, then that's fairly easy to kind of go, I've got my composition, the light's great. As long as I move this way, the fire exit sign's out of the shot, and nail that video clip to match the photo, so that actually when they look at the album of photos versus video, it looks like the same eyes took both. I literally go from shooting manual to turning the dial to film too. I don't just press record either, which I think some people kind of tend to do. And that means that the camera then chooses what the settings will be, whereas I'm literally turning it as if I'm a videographer to video and then changing the settings to make sure that it works in that space too.
So you're keeping it kind of manual to a certain degree in terms of your settings.
Yeah, I want that control. I'm a control freak. I want that control.
Like, and what are your favorite lenses for it, and is it different for photo and video, or is it the same?
No, do you know what, 35 and 50 were my kind of go-to forever. Then I got an 85 and fell in love with that too. Certainly for kind of couple portraits, the 85 is gorgeous. This 2870 has saved me in quite a few moments where you can't move around a huge amount and you want a bit of variety. But probably my favourite is still the 50mm.
Solid focal length, that, isn't it?
I just think any footage on that and any kind of close-up stuff tends to work so much better than too much wide.
And who's your favourite wedding filmmaker?
Do you know what? I have followed the Lawsons since, I can't remember when they first started, but I went to one of their photo courses, workshops in Manchester, probably 10 plus years ago. So I feel like I followed watching them, and then when they moved to video, I was like, I love their work too. So I've definitely kind of felt like a super fan of the Lawsons for a long time. Russell Kent Nichols is a hero, and as much as he's not a previous photographer and he very much is video, I love the movie quality of his work, and kind of how he puts stuff together is really beautiful. Some of his stuff for like bridal campaigns, for like bridal dresses, blows my mind, and I might instantly go, I want to learn how to do that.
He's very fashion kind of led, isn't he?
Just so cool. So I kind of keep an eye on his work. There's another wedding videographer called Chris Jerome James. I don't know if you've heard of him. And his stuff almost looks a bit like cine film and like a bit 70s, and like it's so different to how I shoot, but equally I feel really inspired by it because it's totally his style, and I kind of love that authenticity of his work.
That's quite cool. That's 3 very different styles there, isn't it? So it's like nice getting like influence from a variety of different ways of
Yeah, I mean,
creating wedding films?
I think because I was a photographer for 10 years before I flicked onto video, I already had my own, this is how I shoot, this is my style, this is my way, my branding, and
Yeah.
my look of how kind of my photos were going to kind of come to life. So I think that echoed in my videos quite easily. But I think you can appreciate so many other people's ways of storytelling, scene setting. I think as long as it like is reflective of how you tell a story, then I can
Yeah.
totally get on board.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm like a wedding film nerd. Like I love absorbing filmmakers of all different sorts. I'm just getting inspired by all different people. But then I don't know if it filters its way into my work. Probably not. But I just like to take it on board.
Yeah, but I think, you know, like even just art and, you know,
Yeah.
magazines, and I've got loads of old photography books that I don't know if that totally influences how I see the world, but I think how we use light, how flattering we want the pictures to be, how versus how artistic they are. I come from a background of teaching theatre and the arts. So I taught A-level drama
Right.
and theatre
Okay.
studies and BTEC performing arts. So I think my want to direct a little bit in both photos and film is kind of innate because like I've got a vision of how I want it to look on camera. So I think coming from that background and then also having the people skills to let people be really relaxed with you
Yes.
is is the thing that draws me in most when I look at other people's work.
Yeah. And I think that, like you're saying, like those are such valuable skills in our job and like essential, like kind of people skills massively, to be able to make people comfortable around you so you can catch natural stuff, but kind of, but having a vision as well and how you want to create imagery in a situation that we generally not supposed to have much control over, but there's certain ways we can now, aren't there?
No, completely. And I think weddings are one of those things. There's 100 things going on at once, and you have to. And I say this to so many people that ask me kind of how I manage to do both is slow time down. To not feel that, oh my God, speeches are in 3 minutes. And oh my God, she's about to walk down the aisle. And like everything feels like it could be really rushed. Whereas if you
Yeah.
and the couple go, let's just enjoy this moment. We're in this moment right now. And you're about to walk down the aisle and it's going to take you 45 seconds. Enjoy every single one of those seconds. And I'll get to
Yeah.
capture photos within the first 7 seconds. I can nail the pictures. Hey, I've got another 40 seconds before you're going to be at the front. That's plenty of time for some video. And if I can kind of get my brain in that, like, don't rush it, then I
Yeah.
stay calm and I'm able to capture both things too.
Is that something that you've been able to do from the start in terms? I feel I'm the opposite. I feel like everything in my brain is going a million miles an hour all the time, and I can never slow it down. Have you always been able to do that, or is it something you've had to almost train yourself to be able
I
to do?
think, like, that's a lifestyle's belief system. For me at weddings, I really try and kind of let go of all of the what ifs. What if I miss it?
Yeah.
What if I go wrong? What if someone trips? What if my batteries run out? I'm really organized, so I'm like, there's only so much of it you can be in control of, right? In
Yeah.
life and at a wedding. So if you can let go of all the other stuff and just react in the moment, I think you tend to become more present, and that way you're going to be able to like see all the magic unfold, even if it's feeling really stressful.
I need to take this on board. I really do.
Come round and we'll do some breathing exercises. I'll get you a bit more zen. We'll be okay.
I just feel my head is always a mild panic. But what I have noticed as I've got more experience, I have got kind of calmer in a way. And the calmer I've got, the better my work is. But then there's sometimes those moments when I'm thinking, oh, I need to be at the ceremony now. I need to be setting up for the ceremony. Whereas it'd be good, I guess, to just capture the moment that's there and then worry about that a bit further down the line. But
yeah, I mean, you can't miss a beat and you can't get things wrong. But the more prepped you are, and if you've educated your couple in how prepped they need to be of what things they could be helpful on rather than unhelpful. And when you're doing photography and filming them, they might have to do some things twice because you're going to do photos for one and video for another. So they have to be on board with that too.
I'm imagine prep, especially when you're shooting hybrid, the prep with the couple beforehand is massive. It's very essential to be able to create what you do. Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah, literally from the first consult. So when I have an inquiry for somebody who wants me to do both, I'll do a Zoom call and really be very honest and very open about what I can achieve as a hybrid shooter. And probably more than people would imagine, I will push for, maybe you want a dedicated wedding videographer.
Right, okay.
Like, I don't want to, which way round is it? Overpromise and underdeliver.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to get that wrong. I don't want them to have expectations that I'm not gonna match. So I make sure before I have the Zoom call, I would send them maybe 4 or 5 galleries of a first edit, and I'll talk through how I hand back my pictures and things. But I send the couples within a week of their wedding 200 pictures, so that's their first edit. And then I'll also, with an inquiry, send them someone's first edit and that person's video, so they can see what a wedding kind of looks like from me. Yeah. So that they've got a good sense of, like, here's 4 different weddings, 4 different venues, maybe the venue that they're getting married at, if I've got one from there too. And that I'm really kind of super clear of, it's just me. I wear a cape as often as I can. I like to feel of myself as a superhero, and that I can achieve as many moments as possible. I will get photos and film. But I'm very clear from the offset. If they are hinting even a tiny bit of, oh, but we'd quite like the whole of the ceremony, or is there any chance you could set up a camera on a tripod for the speeches? Go and book a wedding videographer. I'm not right for you. And I think that is a kind of like time in business thing, where rather than like scrabbling for the work, thinking, oh, okay, well, maybe I could borrow a tripod and I could stick one on a camera and I'll deliver. I'm more often than not go, don't book me to do both. I'm an incredible photographer and I'm more than happy to just take photos. But if you're wanting more than a 4 or 5 minute highlight film that I'm able to achieve, then I'm not going to be the right person to shoot both for you. So like at the Zoom call, that first kind of consult, I'm really clear of like, have you looked at my videos? Have you checked what I deliver? Would you be happy with that if that was your wedding? I'm really clear with them. And I think then I siphon off anybody who might then book a videographer. And I have, I've been in the industry a long time. I have videographers that I would recommend that I love working with, and make sure that somebody I'm kind of happy to be around too. And like, I have no problem with there being a videographer if that's what they need and that's what they want. If they're more than happy to go ahead and book me for doing what I do and how I do it, then when I do their pre-wedding shoot, which tends to be 4-6 weeks before the wedding, I will...
Do they all get a pre-wedding shoot then?
Yeah, do you know what? I know lots of people now charge for them and do it as an extra. I'm old school. I've been doing this for nearly 20 years. I do it with everybody, whether they book me for 4 hours or 10 hours, because I want to get to know them. I want to feel comfy on the day. I want to have done a recce of the venue with them if I haven't shot there before. So more often than not, I will meet them at the wedding venue, and it's like a kind of final sit down of, let me talk timings, let me have all your group shots, let's kind of be organised and all of that kind of stuff. And at that meeting, I will say, right, there is a few moments where it's kind of tricky to get photos and film. It's the things that happen in quicker than 30 seconds. If it happens for longer than 30 seconds, I've got time to get both things. But if you're going to do it for 3 seconds, like a first kiss, do you have a preference?
Right. So you give them the option on certain moments. You give them. Would you prefer that in photo? Would you prefer that in video?
Yeah, and most of the time, my instinct is to photograph first and film second, because photos is where my business and my heart kind of started. And there's a few moments that it's worth doing the filming first, and I'll get to what those moments might be. But I kind of have that conversation with them and go, look, there is a few moments where I can orchestrate that we get both, but is there a preference of photos or film, or are you happy and that I take creative, artistic, what are my settings at the time kind of decision that you'll either get it on photo or it will be on film. I'm not going to miss it.
So have it captured one way or the other.
But it will be somewhere. whether you have that as a photo or whether you have that as a film. Quite often, things like the reveals in the morning, I say, let's photograph the reveal to dad, because not every dad gives a great big reaction. I don't know if you find that with some of your weddings. So you kind of get lots of dads that just come in and go, yeah, you look lovely, darling. Did you get married? And there's,
hurry up, you're late.
Quick. Your mum's been right stressed. And it all kind of feels a little bit like, oh. So I kind of say, let's photograph that, because the hugs and the connection with your dad will be lovely. And with the bridesmaids, let's film that, because this or the turn is all really, and that first reaction is what you need for the video. They will coo, is that the right word? Like a
let's go with it.
Do you know what I mean? That they will go, woo, oh my God, you look amazing, for another 20 seconds. And I can photograph that.
They'll ham it up no matter what, won't they?
Yeah. They'll just keep going. And especially if I'm standing behind the bride, like, woo, hype girl, let's go. So I will tend to video the reveal moment and photograph thereafter. So I kind of try and educate the bride and groom of like, I know this is going to work, so let me do this. But if you have a absolute preference that you want something in the video, tell me now. And then on the day, I save as a screenshot. I've done a reel on this, but I save as a screenshot all of the timings and notes from the wedding. For each bride and groom was the screenshot on my phone each wedding.
So like a screensaver.
Yeah, so literally as if I have to kind of like just tap on my phone and it goes, okay, they want confetti filmed first. If I get a chance to get a couple of photos, great, but they'd rather most of it be filmed. Then I've got those kind of notes on me to look at throughout a wedding.
Brilliant. And so you get that by just glancing at it. You don't even need to turn your phone on.
No, just press it once and I'm like, okay, cool. Right, that's what I'm doing here. And when you're shooting, like I've got 3 weddings this week, when you're shooting and you kind of go, I've got 6 Lauras this summer. Can't remember who said what.
It's always Ellie for me. Everyone's called Ellie. Ellie and Tom.
Yeah, there was one year where I had 5 Lauras and I was like, they'd phone and go, hi, it's Laura. Yeah, I need more than that. A date, a husband's name, a venue. Give me more. But the more organised I am with the bride and groom, the easier that kind of... And I will tell them things on the day too. I guess that's the kind of the third step. So initial consultation, make sure they know what you can achieve. Run up, make sure that I kind of know what their preferences are. And then on the day, things like I will photograph the first kiss so that I know I've got it. And then when they're signing the paperwork, I will often go up to them and go, congratulations, well done, you've done it. And then say to them, before you come back down the aisle, remember to have another kiss, and I'll film that one.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. And what's quite important, I think, for us as wedding suppliers now is that we are the experts in this field, aren't we? And our couples, more than often, this is their first time doing anything like this. We need to help guide them, don't we? And we do know best because we spend our life at weddings. So when it comes to like getting preferences from them as well, you're always going to know yourself what would be best to get in a way, aren't you? But it's nice to get their preferences, but at the same time, you can advise them and you know how a day usually unfolds.
Absolutely. And I think as long as that kind of is an open dialogue, that you go... These are the options. This might work better. Is that all right with you? Rather than afterwards them going, oh, I thought you were going to do this and you didn't. And I never want to feel like I've, like with group shots, I make sure I am hot on a group shot list and I don't miss anybody. And if someone's travelled 5,000 miles to be at your wedding, you should probably have a group shot with them. And you can't remember that once I've already gone. So I make sure that they're the things I don't want to spend loads of time on at the wedding day, but they're something I will spend quite a bit of time on with a bride and groom, making sure we've nailed the order we're going to shoot things in so that I don't spend too long doing them.
Yeah, so you're putting a lot of prep before the wedding day itself to make the day easier for the couple.
I'm like an honorary wedding planner, I'm quite hot on all of those things too.
Yeah, so Hannah, if we can talk about the packages that you offer, just so it gives people a bit of an idea of what you're delivering, and then when we talk about the technical aspects, they know what you're charging for what you deliver, basically.
I've always done a 4, 6, 8, and 10 hour package for photos.
Yeah.
I know lots of people just do a kind of, this is my day rate. But for the smaller weddings or people that don't want prep in the morning, or they after first dance they're like, please don't stay and get our friends drunk and disorderly on the dance floor, go home, go home, then the 8 hour one tends to work. To be fair, most people book 8 or 10 hours for photos.
Yeah.
And the film, highlight film, is the same cost however many hours people have booked me for. It's just a kind of...
because it actually gets harder, if anything, to make a highlight film the less you're there, right?
Yeah, so I've got a wedding coming up where I'm only booked for 6 hours, and then I'm doing... I did one last year where I was booked for 4 hours. It was a really short wedding, and it was photos and film. And I was a bit like, am I going to have enough? Normally I'm there for 10 hours. So I was kind of conscious to make sure I got enough kind of B-roll and stuff to kind of make a video too. So for just me, for 10 hours is 2,500. And for me, plus one is 3,000. For me and another at 10 hours is 3,200. And then currently I'm 800 to add on video.
Okay, yeah. So video is £800 no matter what to add on to any of these packages.
Yeah. And it
what
didn't
are they
start out
getting?
that price. It's crept up.
Pardon?
It's crept up.
Yeah. It's too cheap, mate. That's way too cheap.
Do you know what?
I think.
It's so funny. So I started doing videos in 2018, and the person who taught me was charging $475 as a video add-on. And at the time I thought, I can't charge more than they are because they've just taught me. And it felt wrong to kind of like be adding something to my packages that somebody who was the pro wasn't charging that much. So I went in at $450, and I kept it at $450 for far too long. And for me, it was like, oh, well, it's an add-on, and an extra 500 quid for a wedding is quite a nice thing. Obviously, it's more work and it's more editing, but I felt like I was kind of building my portfolio with it, and I was getting better at it. Then I got better at audio and adding in bits of speeches and ceremony. And I did a video course with Mickey Shah. Do you know Mickey? During lockdown, I did his wedding video course, and I was like, right, up my game. Let's go. Okay. So I crept it up then, I think, to $650, and was like, oh, what if no one books? Oh no, it might be too much. And nobody batted an eyelid, and people continued to book. And then late last year, I started to talk to lots of photographers about photo and film. And everyone I spoke to, and videographers too, to be fair, said $650 is far too cheap for what you're producing. Yeah. It looks like a wedding.
800 is, it really is. It's at top quality work.
Well, people were saying it looks like a videographer has made this. How the hell you've done it and taken 6,000 photos and delivered 1,000 pictures as well as doing this is blowing our minds. And I may creep it up again. And the fact that most of my wedding clients are more than happy to pay it and would be paying a lot more for a videographer to do the same thing, even if they were just creating a highlight film, I guess, and not doing full speeches and things. But it's worked for me.
Yeah.
So
that's what it's about, isn't it? It's about, for all of us, this pricing. It's just what works for us, and it doesn't matter what other people are charging, what the industry is telling us. It's what we want to get and what we're happy with. But what are you actually delivering? Like, how many photos are you delivering? And from a video perspective, what are you delivering as well? For £800, what are they getting?
So with photos and with film?
Yes, So sorry. So initially, what are you delivering in your photo package?
Okay, so every couple gets a pre-wedding shoot, as we said, at their venue if we can. And I'll deliver, 25, 30 photos from that pre-wedding shoot. So they'll get those as a kind of initial, like, don't you look lovely in my pictures? And kind of that kind of thing. Once I've taken photos at a wedding day, I tend to try and send over some like hero images 24, 48 hours, like 10, 20 photos, whether that's a kind of a quick WhatsApp or these are the ones I'd love to post on Instagram. Here are some new profile picture type pictures, lots of the couple, but, some like really nice ones straight away. And then I tend to get those up on socials really quickly. Some weddings, I will do a 1-minute trailer, but not all. It kind of depends on how busy that week's looking in terms of a kind of some sort of like short film. But if I've got time, if I make a reel of a wedding, I might sometimes put up a little bit of the video and then some of the photos.
Yes.
So I put something up fairly quickly. With all of those things, I collab with the couple and the venue.
Yeah.
And same when I deliver their final video. Then with
How often did a venue collab back with you? Is that often or not?
most of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I make sure I send a message. So lovely working with you. Your team was great. Thanks for the food. You know, kind of like do a bit of a preamble that I'm going to send, something that they can collab onto. It's content for them as much as it is content for us. And certainly that's got my views up on the full videos that then I post if they repost and collab on it too.
Well, collab is massive, isn't it? Because you end up being on their grid then.
Yeah.
So any couples that are going to book that venue,
We'll see
you're there,
it.
sat there on their grid.
Yeah.
Like,
So
incredible marketing.
that's a definite one for me that I make sure I do every time. Then within a week to 10 days, I think it says on my website, but generally within the week, I'll have sent them 150 to 200 pictures.
Yeah.
So
so that's in addition to your kind of like sneak peek almost.
Yeah,
like
so
you're
the
doing
kind of
some
like the first kind of 10, 20 pictures will be this is what I'd like to post on Instagram. Oh my God, yesterday was epic. I'm so excited to edit more of the photos and your film. But so that will be within 24 hours. Then within the week, that 200 pictures I will send as a slideshow.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I should say this on a podcast. It feels like I'm kind of like giving the game away. Don't tell any of the brides or anybody else. But I'm more often than not, the couple are quite often on honeymoon at that time. I will make sure that I have the groom's WhatsApp or Instagram and message him the link to the slideshow. So I say to him, do you want to have a date night tonight with your missus and show her the first 200 pictures? It's set to music. It's 15 minutes. It's a gorgeous collection. Like, get some champagne, make sure you've got good Wi-Fi, go somewhere quiet and make this a moment.
Yeah. Oh, so wow. You're setting up a date night for him on the
I'm
slide.
like, here, do you want some boy points? Here, go, take it. I've done it for you. And that way, maybe, I don't know, maybe 1 in 5 clients, I'll also say to the groom, if you don't mind setting up your phone with a reaction shot of the two of you whilst you're watching the slideshow, that would be incredible. Or to send me a video message afterwards once you've watched it. Yeah. Content. Everything is content. That sounds awful, but I'm kind of like, it's lovely to have the reaction, but also, you know, you could post that later. And I've done a couple where I've posted the slideshow and the couple's reaction. That video got 10,000 plus views.
Wowza. Yeah.
So and that's just for photos. That isn't for the video. So it's a good way of creating video of your photos as content that you can put out. So they get that slideshow and then they get them as a download link. Then I kind of say, I'll be in touch soon. Hold tight. I try and deliver wedding videos next within 6 to 8 weeks of the wedding.
Oh, okay. So before they get the full gallery of photos, that's when you're delivering the video. And what is it you do deliver for the?
So I
for
deliver a kind of, it all says highlight film. So one of the good things about doing photos and film clips is I don't have so much footage that ends up on the culling floor. You know, like I use anything that's good because I don't have so much to choose from. And the few weddings where I have only videoed, I find it harder because I've got so much footage to play with. So most of the time then I will use, 85% of the footage that I've taken and create a 4 to 5 minute film with as much audio from either the ceremony or the speeches peppered through it, and maybe a little bit of ambient noise of like the cheer of the big group shot put in there too, if I can. I haven't ever had a couple ask for a particular style of music. I think my songs are all quite samey, so people have an idea of what the kind of track's going to be. And I have the odd couple that like have got an interest in music, so I've said, like, I'll send you 3 tracks, you tell me which one you prefer and I'll edit to that one. But most of the time I just go, trust me, and it will be a great song. And then they get that video link about 6 to 8 weeks after the wedding. And then I do another sneaky thing I
Go
also
on.
try and send that video I'll say to the bride, it's going to be ready by the end of the week. So she knows it's coming. And then I'll say to the groom, do you want to do a second round of date night? And get champagne, shut the curtains, make sure it's kind of like, and make sure that they don't just watch it on WhatsApp at work. Like, make sure you're holding hands, that you've got some bubbles, that you've got some tissues close by. So if you have a cry, you're going to be okay. And actually make that into a moment too. And it just kind of like, it elevates the experience for them. If you kind of, rather than just go, here's a link,
you're making
great.
it almost like a proper experience. The film is going to be better in their eyes, and the photos from that other kind of date night you've done as well, just because you're creating a whole experience around it.
Yeah, and I think that for me, like, has been a big part of it. And then once the bride has met, I say to the groom, if I've, or the partner, if I've sent one of them the video link, message me when you've watched it, so I know I've seen it, like, because they might wait a couple of days until they've got a good night after work or whatever to watch it. And so once I get a message from them saying, oh my God, we've seen it, it's incredible, we're going to show everybody, thank you so much, I then send an MP3 file of the audio of the ceremony and the speeches, and I call it their wedding podcast.
Oh, okay. So that's very interesting. So you're miking up for the ceremony?
Yes, like one of these. So I mic them up for the whole of the ceremony and the whole of the speeches.
Yeah. And you were pointing at a TX650
just
like, for people that listen to the audio version.
It's here.
So
I don't want to pick it up in case I make some noise, but I can show it afterwards.
So you're using TX650s to mic up the ceremony. Who are you miking up?
So I only own two because I'm not trying to kind of like be perfect on all of these things. So I tend to mic up the groom and the registrar, or I'll put one on the table during the ceremony so that if it's in a church and they're going to be speakers at one, like at the other end of the front of the church, I might put one there and then mic the groom up, because I'll get enough of the bride and groom and then get the speakers.
Yeah.
The odd occasion where speakers have been in a completely different place and I've gone, oh, their reading was really lovely and I don't have proper audio of it. I've said to 2, maybe 3 speakers over the years after dinner, do you mind coming out into the garden with me and just rereading your reading, just so I can have the audio of it? I don't have to stand anywhere near you. Just pop this mic on, say it to, yourself underneath that tree, and that would be amazing. And then I know I've got it.
So that's the people giving readings during the ceremony?
During a ceremony. And then for speeches, I put one on the microphone if they're mic'd up, and then I just pass the other one along to whoever's speaking.
Yeah. So you've got like a backup of each person.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. And are you you're doing the ceremony as a podcast? Are you giving the speeches as a podcast as well?
Yeah, both. So normally it's about a 40-minute file, and I will cut out if there's like lots of, chaos between the speeches, I might kind of fade that in and fade it back out again. But I say to the bride and groom or the couple, pop an AirPod in each and go on a nice long walk.
Yeah.
Listen to your wedding. It will take you back to that moment in the wildest of ways. And I start the ceremony as the music as the bride tends to walk in, and then finish it on the Mr. and Mrs. Thank you very much. And quite often, even just like the little whispers of the groom saying, oh my God, you look amazing. Yeah. For them to listen back to that, even though they don't have the video of that, is still a really lovely memory of their day.
Amazing. And how much of this stuff, because there's quite a lot you're delivering there, how much of it are the couple aware
Rue's
of
like,
before?
Up your prices or I'm never speaking to you again.
No. Like how, because it seems a lot of that delivery is quite important for you to be able to create an experience for your couple.
Yeah.
How much of all that you're delivering do they know about, or how much of it is kind of like you over delivering basically to create a nice experience?
They know that they will get a first edit. They know that they will get a 4 to 5 minute video. I says on my website, I will attempt to record audio. And as you know, some things can go terribly wrong, whether that is high winds or a mic that gets rubbed in a top pocket constantly, or a microphone that is squeaking for the whole of the speeches. 99% of the time, it's fine. And so I will deliver an MP3 file. But I don't kind of tell them how good it's going to be.
No. So they do know they're getting that podcast style thing
Yeah,
beforehand.
I don't anywhere on my website call it a wedding podcast. And like, I don't want to big it up in case it doesn't work. But I don't think I've had a client in the last 2 years that I haven't delivered one to.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's a great idea as well, and it's kind of I don't know.
I mean, wedding
guess
videographers, I guess, could deliver the audio like that as just a sound file. Like, it's a really nice thing to listen to, and I quite often listen to it when I'm first culling the wedding.
Right, to get you back into that space.
And I go, oh my God, what was her relationship like with her dad? And what did her bridesmaid say during the speech? And hang on a minute, what kind of couple were they during the ceremony? And like, even just listening to their voices as I cull clips, I re-feel the wedding. I mean, I'm a soppy soul to start with. I've been with my husband for 25 years, and he told his mum he'd met the girl he was going to marry before he asked me out. So I'm a soppy one when it comes to marriage at the best of times. And like, if I had that of my wedding, I'd love to listen to it.
Yeah,
too.
Absolutely.
And so then the final collection of images I send back at around 8 to 12 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, that's quite an interesting. I like how you staggered that there, because that's what I always was confused with shooting hybrid. I was like, what order would I deliver things in? Because I do offer combo packages, but it's not hybrid. I'll take on photos sometimes, and I'll hire in a videographer to shoot alongside me. So it's two separate. Yeah, so there's no way I could make my brain work like you do.
You could. I bet you could.
But I'm always like, so what order do I deliver this in? But usually I just go with all the photo and then all the video. But I like how you're kind of, I don't know, taking them on a journey of different elements from their day.
It's a sort of a slow way, perhaps, of like, I don't want to say drip feeding, that sounds awful, but like, it just prolongs the excitement.
Yes.
Rather than like, here's all your photos, leave me alone for 10 weeks. Here's another thing. Okay, I'm busy now. I am wild at keeping in touch with couples. WhatsApp, Instagram, how are you doing? How's your honeymoon been? Show me photos. Like, I want to be in their circle of friends, and that goes from the run up to the wedding and after it. I'm excited about sharing their day with them. They've let me have a front row seat at their wedding. I don't feel like you can have that friendship and then just be like, cool, on to the next one.
See ya.
Yeah, bye now. But actually, it's really nice to be invested in them as people.
Yeah. And also, I think couples as well, that they've spent years in the build up to this day, for it then suddenly to be over, in a way to have it prolonged, like you say, that little bit with more relevance being fed to them over time. Yeah.
And I think because I do newborns and family shoots, so many of my couples continue to book me.
And obviously, you've been doing photo for 17 years now in total, did you say?
Yeah. My daughter was 6 months when I started. So, yeah, and they are almost 18.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So you've been doing quite a few years. But the bit I'm interested in is when you started to bring video in, when you started to do hybrid. So how did that come about?
So end of 2017, December 2017, Camera Hannah was running hybrid courses. And I had been a photographer for 10 years. And I was like, I'm a bit bored. I can do weddings. I don't have to think about it too much. I still was getting nervous and I'd still want to really deliver. But I felt like I wanted to add something else. I saw that Hannah was running a course on how to do both. And I was like, I want a piece of that. So I went along, learned the kind of basics. And at that point, I was still shooting on a camera that didn't auto face track. So you were manually focusing to try and get everything in focus. And I was like, I don't know if I can do both. Could I do both? Should I try and do both? And then April 2018, I was photographing a friend's wedding. And I thought, this is a really good opportunity. And I did both at her wedding for the first time. I had shot one wedding with a videographer the week before with no photos and just said, can I come along as your assistant and just get a little bit of video footage at a wedding so I can see what it feels like and see how under pressure I feel, not have the pressure of any photos. If I get anything that's good, I'll give it to you. But I won't put anything on Instagram, nothing on Facebook. This is not for me to kind of be like, oh, look at my portfolio. It was just to practice. And then I shot my friend's wedding and I bloody loved it.
Did you? Straight instantly?
Oh my God, I edited it. I edited the whole video in a like 9-hour sitting and didn't look up from my desk. I was
Wow.
like hyper focused in. And it was like watching my photos literally move.
Yeah.
And my mind was blown. There was things that are like a bit boring with photos. Only so many hugs you can take a photo of and it looks exciting. But in a video, oh my God, the emotive, like the feeling from it all felt so amplified that my heart was like swelling in how I could up my game with my photos.
Yeah.
And I never felt like my photos were put as a sort of like a second or as I don't know, that I was missing anything. It made me watch even more.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
If that makes
yeah.
sense. Like I felt like I had to kind of go, don't miss anything. So get the photos and then really look for the moments that will work well for video too. And I think that was April 2018. And maybe I didn't shoot video for every wedding thereafter. I did maybe 3 where I didn't tell the bride and groom that I were going to be doing a bit of video, and I delivered one. And they were like, when did you do this? And it was just for me to go, can I get to a point where it feels really natural to do both?
Yeah. What points were you finding the most difficult to, what were the hard bits when you first started trying?
I think it's almost harder when the bride and groom don't know, because it looks
Right.
like you've messed up a photo when you ask them to do something again.
Yeah.
So when you kind of go, right, have a kiss or walk towards me and talk to each other, click, 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 click. Can we do that again? And you want to do it for video, but if they don't, it might look like you've messed up your photos the first time.
Well, they're thinking they ruined it.
Yeah.
Walking
You're like,
wrong.
oh, that was awful walking. What were you doing? Go again. But I think, probably them not knowing. And also, if people don't know for video, they're going to stare at you a lot.
Yes. Yeah.
So
There's
a lot
nothing
of my
more creepy than people staring down the barrel of a video camera, is there? At
or
all.
like stopping and thinking you're about to take a picture. There was always a lot of that. And I think to start with, like certainly if kids like looked at me and waved or were like joyous to see me, I'd still put that in the video because it felt okay. And the more I got into the videos, the more I didn't want that fourth wall broken quite as much. And I actually really wanted it to look like I was in the room, but I wasn't. So once my couples and people knew that that's what I was doing, I would quite often say to couples, if my camera's here, I'm taking photos. If my camera's here, I'm videoing.
Right.
So when it's here,
so again, it's in the consultation process that you're giving them these tips.
And I might even kind of like say it on the day, to the bridesmaids. Right, we're taking photos. Eyes to me. Look this way. Great, thanks very much. Look at each other. Joyous. And then, okay, we're going to do a little bit of video. Whatever you do, don't look at me. I'm not in the room. I'm a figment of your imagination. Laugh with each other. Look at the person who got the most drunk on the hen do. Ha, 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 ha. And have to like direct it a little bit to make sure I was getting what I needed for photos and for film. And the more that I did where I did both and the better my editing skills got, the better they became and the more I trusted that they would be consistent in the way that my photos were. 4 or 5 weddings in, I started adding it as a package to my website. You got to be bolshy, right? You got to be in it to win it. And I was like, okay, let's see how many people book me to do this and see what it does.
How did that go?
Inquiries.
What was the reaction, the response to it?
Pretty good. I think the people who really can't afford another 2.5, 3 grand for video were like, really? We could get that for another few £100? And it was a Brucey bonus for them. And I was still practicing and building my portfolio. And as I got better and better at it and my price creeped up for it, I was more proud of what I was producing. And so the more then I would put things on Instagram and share stuff online too, and realised that the videos got way more views than any bloody photos ever do. So for me, in terms of like building my social media, it had a massive impact that anytime I put a video up and tagged all the bridesmaids, and everyone reshared it, and the makeup artist. And I always make sure that I've got everyone's tagged in it, and everyone's mentioned in the...
Even bridesmaids, you get like
as many as I
social details
can.
of...
As many as I can. Makeup artists, hair people, florists, the suits, anybody that is part of this. Because as much as we are producing something that shows it all off, I always say on every post, dream team of suppliers. I'm just creating the end product. If they didn't all put their, skills of floristry and everything else in, it would all look a little bit rubbish. So I kind of thank everyone, and then I'm really grateful when everyone decides to share it too. And then probably in lockdown, so what's that now, 4 years ago, I wanted to get even better with video. And
wanted to level up.
Yeah, I was like, I knew I had time. And it was one of those kind of like, right, okay, I've got it to a point where I'm really comfy. I know I can do both. I wasn't doing a huge amount with audio. And I was like, right, when the doors open again, back to the world, and we're allowed to breathe on each other again, I want to be nailing this. And that was probably the moment then, doing Mickey's course, looking at old footage, re-editing some stuff, that I was like, I can get better at this. Let's keep going. Like, I think it's really easy to just get in your lane and stay there. And actually, as a creative, I get bored if I do that. I really want to level up and get better at my craft. And whether that's new kit or new lenses or learning about new lighting, I try and do at least one course a year by people that are inspiring me. And I think my videos since lockdown have been even better.
And what were elements that you really focused your attention on for your videos to level them up? Was there certain areas?
I think really making sure like the storytelling and like the scene setting was really good, that I would kind of really consciously go, if I showed somebody this video at the end, could they feel like they were in the room? And that kind of like wide shot of an establishing shot of, this is how the chaos of the bridesmaids getting ready. This is a close up of the bride having her makeup done, but this is a point of view shot now of what the bride's looking at outside the window, and kind of like tried to really start hitting those markers of, let me climb inside your head for the bride and for the couple. And so then when I would show my husband, my children, wedding videos, I always say, can you feel like you were there? Do you get a sense of them? Do you get a sense of the day? And that for me is what I want from the final edit, is a real sense of, if someone couldn't make the wedding, but they watched the video and felt like they were there, nailed it.
Adding these extra filmmaking elements to your skill sets enables that process to deliver films that give that impact, don't they?
Yeah, I think so. And getting better at choosing tracks that, build and that have got some really good like hit beats for, and making sure that when they hit a crescendo, something cool happens. They're such tiny they're the things that I will go, right, let me listen to a song and mark it out, and then go, right, that bit there really builds. Okay, so that needs to be when she walks down the aisle. Okay, I need to find enough footage now to hit that point so she walks down the aisle in that moment. And that's what takes me hours. I've got the footage. It's just making sure that I deliver something. And it might be something that when people watch back, they don't see it, or the song says something about time and there's a shot of a clock and I'm like, ah! And I think it's great and no one else notices. But those kind of like little tweaks have definitely got me to a point where I'm really confident in what I can deliver.
Yeah. What I want to dive into is the actual practical how you are shooting this wedding day, because this is the bit that just blows my mind a little bit. So how are you able to jump between photo and video in terms of settings?
So I feel like I should have a camera in my hand to kind of like have a play with. My instinct is to like start showing you what I'm doing. I'm such a practical thinker. So in every space that I go into, as soon as I walk into like, say, prep in the morning, I will set both cameras, photos and film settings to roughly what they need to be. If that makes sense. So that I've got the exposure right. I've worked out what shutter speed, what aperture I like. I mean, I'm a 2.2. I go, it's really sad to have a favourite aperture. I don't get out much, Rue. But my favourite aperture is 2.2.
2.2 is so random as well.
I know, I don't know why, but like literally so many of my pictures, I look back and go, yeah, 2.2 is what I was thinking, but 2.2.
Fair enough.
And so I want my videos to look fairly close to my photos, because then stylistically they've got a sort of similar feel to the settings. But obviously with my photos, I'm not shooting at 100th of a second because I don't want any movement or any risk of movement. So I will set both cameras when I walk into a space to roughly what I think they need to be at to achieve good footage and good photos. And then it does mean then if I pick up one camera, whether I'm photo and film, I'm close enough that I only need to kind of by eye change it a little bit to kind of get that right. I think there's different elements of the day that are easier and some that are trickier.
Yes.
And there's certain moments you don't want to mess up. You know, first kiss, confetti, perhaps the reveals. You know, like there's certain moments that feel really key and that are quick. When you've got time with prep for, if you've got, you know, both parties that you're getting pictures of, actually, you can end up with way too much footage and photos of prep because you might have 2 hours and then the ceremony's 12 minutes and you're like, this is meant to be the most important bit of the day and I've only got 12 minutes to get it all. So I'm very conscious to make sure that when I put a video together, it's not 3 minutes of getting ready and a minute and a half of ceremony, speeches, dance, done. That it has to kind of be almost an equal amount to each section of the day. That makes sense in the highlight video.
Absolutely, yeah. I always feel that. I feel like bridal prep, most boring bit of the day, apart from that last hour.
Yeah.
But like I'm there. I get so much footage from that part of the day and thinking, but none of it really tells the story of the couple.
No, it's the time that I might go and do a wander to get some establishing shots of like the trees and a bird and the building, and if the ceremony space is already set up or there's any details already on tables, I will get photos and video of that in the bag as much as I can, and then concentrate on people.
So for photos, you use auto white balance, and you do the same for video as well?
Yeah. As with all things, you can overcomplicate it. And I'm not trying to be a videographer. I don't think it says anywhere on my website that I'm a videographer. I'm a photographer that makes highlight films, and that's very different. And so there's certain elements of video work that I know I wouldn't know as much as you know. And I'm okay with that, because actually what I work within the realms of what I need to deliver.
I also think in the world of like wedding filmmaking, there is often too much emphasis on the kind of technical aspect of it, because it's just how you create that work. And I think kind of Phil White showed everyone years ago that you don't need to concentrate too much on the technical aspects to create beautiful films. And that kind of changed the mindset of a lot of people. But it's just about capturing the moment. It's not
being
about
in the right place at the right time and
those kind of things.
I don't know, giving the right energy so you get the right energy back.
Yes.
A great photographer or videographer can make the day even better. A bad one can make it worse. So you've kind of, I think there's so much in your charge to make sure that you kind of, during prep, don't wind anyone up if anything goes wrong. You know, you become the fixer and the solution focused person, not the person who's kind of like, oh, you've got your button's fallen off. Oh no. You know, you find I always have needle and thread with me in my little bum bag of dreams, and make sure that I'm ready to help rather than hinder in any of that too. But yeah, I think different bits of the day, I'll have a slightly different thought process on what comes first, photos or films. But it's certainly in every space that I go into, I'll set up settings so that I know I'm pretty much there. So like if I was standing in front of a church and bridesmaids are about to walk down, I could pick up either camera if it's set to photo and film, and I'll roughly be right on settings as they're coming towards me.
Yeah. So you're good to go and capture whatever. So I imagine you're not messing around with anything like ND filters or anything like that.
Nope. Keeping it as simple as I can, really.
Yeah.
It is more about, and I've said this to the people that have shot, have done my film course, is don't try and do something completely different for the video. Like, you've got seconds. So if your photo is, a 35 mil and they're walking towards you and it's a really lovely composition, don't then try and go, oh, I'm going to shoot through these flowers for the film, because you'll probably have missed it. Like, just bring your photo to life by swapping to video and get that shot as they're coming down the aisle too.
And that seems such a key phrase in your work as well, bringing the photos to life. You're not trying to completely change the game. You just want to elevate what you're delivering from photo as well.
Yeah. And I think I've worked with some incredible videographers that will see the day differently to me. And I'm so inspired by that. And it's so incredible that I'm like thinking, I've got the best shot. And then they're standing somewhere else. And I'm like, what are they doing? Why is that good over there? Why should I be over there too?
Probably eating canapes if it's like most videographers.
Just eating cake. But I love that you can just trust yourself. I think that's where I've got in certainly with my creativity, as much as I'm petrified the morning of a wedding and I'm always super nervous and it feels like I will forget how to use my camera and my nerves will be too much. As soon as I start, I'm like, okay, I'm in this. It's going to be all right. Everything's going to quieten down and we're going to be
game faces on.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. I think what I love about your films as well, and it's something that you can only really capture being hybrid, is their front and center. The films feel front and center because you as a photographer, you're one person, you're in that spot. You're not, as video, we're often trying to compromise in terms of shooting around the photographer. But with your videos, obviously, you are the photographer as well, so you are right there in the mix.
No, there is something quite nice about knowing I'm not in anyone's way. I'm very conscious when I shoot with a videographer that I'm like, I'm 6 foot, I take up a lot of space, and I'm like, where do you need me to not be in the shot? Or how far forward can I go before I'm not going to be in your shot? And I would always make sure that I would work with somebody like that and kind of be as gentle and as kind of kind as I can in making sure that we're both getting what we need and not just standing opposite each other and both going, damn you, you're in my photo, you're in my film.
But it's nice to not have to compromise, isn't it?
It's nice just not having to worry, I think.
Yeah.
And, like when I first was thinking, if I move the mic from person to person, is that going to look daft? But nobody else is doing it. Nobody else is videoing me doing it. I don't have a camera set up on the head table that is static. I'm just getting little clips of everything. So as long as I nail a little clip of everything that happened, that's key, each speaker, each speech, a bit of the ceremony from different locations. And I think variety in shot is key.
Yeah.
I feel like a wedding is a keep fit class for me. I don't know about you. I'm exhausted by the end of it. And I just keep moving. I shoot a lot of corporate. And one of my clients always says to me, your work stands out because you don't just stand still and take the same shot for the whole conference. You're at the back, you're at the sides, you're shooting through stuff, you're trying to make it more interesting than it actually looks. And I think for video, that's key.
Yes. It's because when you need variety, because with video, we're thinking about sequences, aren't we? Like with photo, you can get a nice shot of the room, but for video, we need to break that down so it fills out the edit and get different angles. And then, do you find yourself you're moving around more now that you're doing video as well?
I think I've always been a bit of a kind of movable bunny. I don't ever want to deliver, like days of old, 20 years ago when I first started doing weddings, and you'd look through an album that was like sat in a reception of a really old wedding venue, and it would be the couple in the same position standing next to a gate and then a tree and then then a fence and then the door
always
line.
A gate in a tree.
Do you know what I mean? And I always say to my couples, the reason I'm going to ask you to stand in slightly different poses or do different things or whisper sweet nothings or dirty secrets to one another is because I want it to look different. And I'm really conscious with video, and I've said this to a few people, that so often the easiest thing to make couples do is walk. And if you make them do walking for every single couple shot, it just looks like they went on a really long walk for their wedding day. But like, here they are walking across the field. Here they are walking towards me. So I have that in my brain too, where I go, get them to sit down, get them to dance, get them to do anything but walk for every single shot. Because much as the variety of the light or the location might be different, don't make it look like they walked around their venue for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So that variety for me is not only focal length and how I pose them and what I may be asking them to do. Some of it I want to be gorgeous, flattering, best way to show off outfits and it be quite beautiful. And in the same moment, I try and direct enough that they have some belly laughs and some really slow-mo moments together to breathe in that they've just got married.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
some
So
of
then
that,
in that way, you're capturing variety then, and different
well, I
emotions,
give
different
them
men.
different feelings, you know.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
say to a bride and groom, I want you to face one another and I want you to kiss, they'll just have a kiss. If you say to them, I want you to close your eyes, get a little closer but don't touch yet, you just got married. I want you to just take a deep breath and keep your eyes closed and find each other for a kiss. And imagine you haven't seen each other for 3 months. Now have a kiss. You get a different kiss. And like
Yeah.
it's so kind of interesting to me that like you've got that level of like playful control on how you take that little roller coaster of emotions. And some of it I want them to be having the silliest of times. And that's about the two of them, which is where for me the pre-wedding shoot is I keep in for every couple because I get to know them enough that I'll work out what are the things that make them tick. Are they quite
Yes.
deep and emotional and willing to go there? Or will they go off on a tangent and start getting stressed and talking about other things? So like if I sit them on a bench and say, have a chat, are they likely to start talking, you know, frowning and talking? But
That's
if I,
always what I see happen whenever photographers
yeah,
with them. They go, have a chat. Then they start
yeah, they're like,
discussing
but hang
table
a
plans
minute,
or something.
you know, your auntie's wearing the same thing as my cousin. They haven't was spoken to each other. And you're like, no, 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 not that kind of chat.
Nice stuff.
Nice stuff, be nice. So if you do like I don't know, I will say to a groom, tell your partner how you were feeling as she walked down the aisle earlier. Tell her something funny that happened with the boys earlier this morning. You know, like almost kind of instigate some of that. And then it's really easy to get photo and film because they stay in that moment with you for another 35 seconds.
So the editing process, I really want to kind of dive into how you approach that. So
Yeah.
with your workflow, so or your films, you're doing highlight films.
Yeah.
One song, I assume,
Yeah.
for the like.
I sometimes
And is
cut a
that
song
the
up a bit. Don't know if I'm allowed
yeah
to say that, if we're allowed to do that. And sometimes I'll buy the
yeah
instrumental version and a version with lyrics. I prefer a lyric song
yeah
than just something that's like twinkly twinkly the whole way through. I feel like it's got a bit more to it if it's got some words
because
to it.
because you are putting some audio in some like speeches elements, aren't you, into your films?
Yeah.
And then but you're not creating a multicam version of the speeches. You obviously you're giving them the audio version
Hell
of them.
no.
So is the song what in terms of the order of everything? How does it go? What do you start with?
Well, my films tend to be chronological. There's maybe one or two where I've like used a bit of like say the dad's speech over getting ready. And for me, because I don't have a locked off camera on the speakers, I can only do audio with a speech if I happen to film that bit.
And so when it comes to that, because I've noticed that in your films, there'll be like a lovely bit said, and then you've seen the speaker thinking, so she's filmed this bit. Are you just waiting out to hear something and then
basically
I'm going to capture this?
the end of the groom speech and the beginning I will tend to film because I know he'll tend to go, my wife and I, or at the end he'll say something lovely about her. Yeah. Like in that last 30 seconds. There's the odd wedding where you know they're going to make an announcement of like a pregnancy announcement. And I'm like, don't miss it, don't miss it, don't miss it, don't miss it. And that I want to get on video. So when it comes to kind of like going through the clips, I tend to, in quiet season, kind of like January through to March, spend a bit of time picking out some songs so that I've maybe got like 10 or 12 songs ready that I don't know which wedding they're going to go with, but I know there's some favourites. So I've created a bit of a playlist of my own and I haven't yet downloaded them and paid for them. I've just got them in a bank of, these are some nice ones. Let me come back to them. So that's kind of my starting point. Are
you using MusicBed?
MusicBed is my go-to.
Yeah.
And there's maybe 6 or 7 artists where I've used like a few of their songs.
Yeah.
And then I kind of think that helps with the flow of my branding. When I put up another video, it's another one that it sounds similar enough that people know it's from me, and I think that's
so you're trying to keep your music in the same kind of sphere, so it's almost quite consistent throughout your films.
Yeah, I think then people know what to expect, right? If I suddenly threw in people are like, whoa, Hannah's gone a little bit cray on this wedding. And unless it was like a totally, like I've done some branding stuff for companies where that sort of like folk instrumental singing type thing doesn't work, and I'll choose something very different. And the odd occasion when it comes to like editing a 1-minute trailer, I might edit to a song that I know is on Instagram.
Yeah, that you can then use
and I can put the audio back on Instagram, but like I'll buy it for 99p on iTunes, edit it in Final Cut to that song, knowing that it matches the beats really well, then take it off when it comes to putting it on Instagram and add it on then. But yeah, most of the time I will pull in all the clips, all the audio. I tend to go through and cull the clips first with an in-out favourites situ. I think that is you. Are you Final Cut too?
Yeah, that's what I do in Final Cut. Yeah, so in point, out point, select it as a favourite, and then you can just filter all the footage that you've selected.
Yeah, and just see
incredible process. And I know a lot of people that use Final Cut that don't use the favouriting system. They throw it down into a timeline, but then for me, you can't see it in a grid format.
No, it's too messy. If I pulled it all down, it doesn't mean that what I chose as the favourite clip. You know, like sometimes it might go either side of that, you know, like, or I was a bit wobbly and I'm like, oh, let's use this side of that instead. But it means that I've looked through it all, and I've kind of, and whilst I'm doing that, I'll often listen to the audio playing too, whilst I'm looking through that, because I don't need the sound on. I hate listening to the sound of my own
voice. As in the audio, you listen to the audio of the music that you're going to use?
No, I listen to the audio of, say, the speeches of that wedding.
Right,
whilst I'm just culling and looking through it, so that I kind of get back into that wedding.
Yeah.
And then I pull a black bar in across, I put in the music, and I start. If it's a piece of music that has some good markers in terms of some good beats that I know I want the clip to change at, I'll listen through the music, and you press M, right, to mark it, to have a little kind of, I don't even know what the word is, what you call it, like a
marker,
a bullet point, like comes up.
Yeah, it's called a marker. Yeah,
and then you can, you easily can snap to that point when you come to edit the clip, and so that for me is quite useful, because I'm also then looking for clips that are gonna. Like if some of the markers are 1 second, then you don't want it to be a really important clip. You might want it to be like a scene setting thing. So that for me helps me kind of look for what I'm looking for to bring into those spaces. But I probably spend a day laying out the story of like a 3-4 minute video. Like most of my videos are 4 to 5 minutes tracks. And then I will go through and go, right, which bits here would work with some of the audio, because I've listened to it all. I record the audio of the ceremony too, in case the speeches don't say anything nice. I don't know if you've had the odd wedding. Which can happen, right, where the speeches are perhaps really funny, but they're not particularly heartfelt. So having the vows is something nice. Obviously, I'm not recording full video of ceremony or speeches, so any bits where people are talking, I won't use the audio unless it matches, because it will look a little like I've kind of dubbed them really badly. So I'm quite careful with things like that, and then making sure that I bring down the track to allow the audio to be heard well enough in that space too. And sometimes with that's when I'll have a play with perhaps putting the instrumental underneath rather than someone singing, so it doesn't sound like the audio is trying to fight over a singer. I can spend quite a lot of time cutting up the song to make it work.
Frankenstein, and I often do that when you need to make parts of the song a bit longer, a bit shorter.
Yeah, or like replay a certain bit because you've got way more dance floor stuff. And I think really being sure that you've picked a song that you listen to the whole thing. I probably once made a mistake of listening to like 30 seconds of it. This is brilliant, great, buy that, done, job, sure, pay the license. And then by the time it got to like a minute into the song, like a bass kicked in, and I was like, whoa, I didn't agree to this.
Where's this saxophone come from?
And I'm like, oh no, I've messed up. I think I actually contacted Musicbed on that and went, I think I downloaded the wrong song. Is there any? I'm not going to use it. But music, I think, is really important.
Yeah. When you say you're laying down, laying down the story, what do you mean by that? Do you mean visuals or do you mean audio?
No, I mean visual. So like most of my videos tell the story of the day. There might be some like detail shots that I took earlier in the day that will be used later in the day, but most of my clips go in the order I took them. If that makes sense. So
that gets all laid out first. So you've got your film to just the music and the visuals laid out, and then you bring in the speeches and ceremony audio.
Yeah, because that way I can see with that bit of speech I have him saying my partner's great because she always, whatever, makes me a hot chocolate on a Sunday morning. These are our favorite things to do together. And I had a wedding fairly recently where the bride had lost her mum the year before, and the bride's sister made a really beautiful speech. And most of her speech was, these are the 5 things mum would have said if she was here.
Oh, wow.
And so I put some of those during the ceremony. And then I also played a little bit more of it during the speeches when I had the video to match up with what her sister was saying.
Yeah.
And it felt like, I don't know, this is the soppy in me too, but I felt like I was adding her mum into the story of the day more so than I would have otherwise. And I had she took a picture of her holding a photo of her mum in the morning of the wedding. And so I had a bit of a video of that too. And I made, in the song, as she holds the picture, the vocals say something like, I will never forget you, I will always love you. And it came to the mum's picture. And so like little things like that even if no one else would get it apart from the bride and her sister. Like that was like it, that when you listen to that audio and you kind of know that it's adding to the feelings during that day. And I was kind of like, what some of the things that she'd said that her mum would say about Cliff, the husband, I put on during the ceremony because that felt really right, because it was about the 2 of them in their moment too. And then the funnier stuff I put on during speeches. But yeah, so I kind of sometimes, once I've laid out all of the day, still kind of go back and go, oh, I need more of this bit, because I've now got an audio bit that lasts whatever 23 seconds and I've only got 16 seconds of footage. Let me have a rejiggle. But I can probably have a wedding video highlight edited in 2.5 days.
That's amazing. That's great. Yeah, it's quite interesting because you do it the complete opposite to me, and it may be because we're doing it in different ways. Whereas for me, the speeches and the ceremony, that audio is like the most important thing. So I go backwards. I choose my song based on the audio I've got, and I put the audio in first so it's hitting certain parts to the music, and then I put the B-roll on the top based on what's been said. So almost like the same result in a way, right? But just attacking it from a different angle. But I wonder if that's because you're very visually led as well, aren't you? Because you're coming from the photo aspect and bringing things alive. It's quite interesting to see that's how you're attacking the edit as well.
And I think because I know I'm working with limited clips.
Yes.
Because I've also taken 6,000 to 8,000 photos that day.
Yeah.
So I come back from a wedding with maybe, I don't know, anywhere between like 280 and 350 clips. I'd be really interested to know what your kind of numbers are when it comes to kind of how many clips you have to play with. And most of those clips may be 5 to 10 seconds long. Like they're not huge amounts of like footage. So I think I worked out that like 5 minutes is 300 seconds. So I need 150 clips that are decent, that are 2 seconds long.
Yeah, so if you like, I think my ratio is I'm usually shooting about 500 clips. Yeah, I'm shooting about 500 clips, but then it usually, when I've favorited it down, we're looking more like I've got 300 that I want to use, something like that, I'd say.
Yeah, and whereas I take about 320 and probably end up using 280.
Yeah. So then that makes sense that you need to start with the visuals because of basically you've got what you've got, right? And it's whereas I've got lots I'm going to be throwing away. I need limitations, so the audio at least puts me in a ballpark of what I can use.
Yeah. Whereas I'm like, what have I got and how am I going to make it fully work?
Yes.
it is scary because weddings do happen quickly. And as much as I'm like, slow time down and I've got time to do it, but you do get home and go, did I get everything I needed? Did I remember to press record in that moment? And I know that I did, but so often I want to look through all of the clips to go, okay, yeah, there's every speech. Okay, yeah, there's a bit of that. Okay, yeah, there's them cutting the cake. And there's maybe like 3 moments of the day where my heart is in my stomach. Confetti, bride walking down the aisle with her dad.
Yeah.
Are probably the 2 moments where I'm like, think fast. Okay, come on then.
So talk me through it. Bride's coming down the aisle. What are you doing?
So my theory with the bride coming down the aisle is that obviously I'm shooting 50 frames per second, so everything can be slow-mo, right? That's my saviour quite often, where I go, well, a 3-second clip.
It's the video version of putting something in black and white, isn't it?
Yeah, we go, we can make that 6 seconds. Let's not panic.
Yeah.
So quite often the best light is once they get closer to you. Yeah. Right? Certainly in a church or even registry offices. So I will tend to video somebody coming in down the aisle when they're right at the back. Because they're tiny little people. They're very far away. But it's very obvious that they are about to walk down the aisle. And you might then be able to get groom in focus and then tap to get the couple, bride and dad walking down too. And then by the time they are halfway, start taking photos.
Right.
Because that way they're closer to the better light. You can see their responses a little bit more. You probably don't need to whack your ISO up so high because they're not in a dark corner of the room with no window light at the end. And so that's how I then tend to do that. Every now and again, a bride will march down the aisle and I won't have time to swap. And I will always say to people, take your time, walk really slowly. Remember, I'm getting photos and film. You don't need to rush any part of this. This is your day. And kind of like keep that kind of momentum up. But I often think the walking down the aisle for both bride with her dad or the couple at the end work better on video than they do for photos.
Yeah, definitely. So, and confetti, what's it like? That's a very similar kind of thing. You got people coming at you quite quick.
Fast. I mean, so I've got a few different things. One, I always make sure I have a bag of confetti in my bag if I really need a plan B and it didn't work out. So I always have like a bag of white paper circles with me so that when I do bridesmaids and ushers, if I totally cocked up the confetti shot and I didn't get any video of it, I'll get them to do a throw then.
Yeah. So do you prioritise photo for the confetti?
Unless a couple have asked me otherwise. So I have got one video on my website where there's loads more confetti as they first come out. And that's because that couple said, we'd rather it on video than photos. And I took 1 or 2 photos when they were really close up to me and people were still throwing a little bit, but it was mostly videos they walked out. I tend to, if I can, create a snake that's got a bend in it. So I go, up until that corner I'm taking photos, keep smiling at each other, no need to look at me. And when you get to the corner, stop and have a kiss. I'm not going to photograph that kiss. I'm not even going to film that kiss. I'm running backwards. And it gives me a chance to keep going. Maybe, I don't know, 40% of couples might forget about the kiss or stopping and they'll keep going, but I will have already swapped to video and I'm walking backwards and I'll get enough sturdy at 50 frames per second to get a little bit of video that I can use. And I've already nailed the pictures in the first corner. And if it's a venue where I can't make a little bit of a kind of turn in the snake, I will say to a bride and groom, stop and either have a dip kiss or spin her around or have a moment where you guys stop and let me get further back that I can video the second half.
Yeah.
Because these couples have booked me to do both. If they want both, they've kind of got to go with me on making sure they allow me the time.
They've got to play their part in it as well, haven't they? And,
because
your prep is getting them prepared for that, is getting them on board.
And it's only like 2 or 3 moments in the day where things happen so fast that you can't get both. Yeah. Really. And confetti is a bit scary.
So recapping.
Yeah, go on. Can I get a recap?
So dad reveal, generally photo. Bridesmaids reveal, then you do that in video. So you have that kind of obviously sometimes you may mix and match this, but your default blueprint setting would be that. Walk down the aisle, you'd start off with video, finish off on photo, and then confetti, you're doing half and half by creating
and every
pause.
now and again, and depending on how how you've got your camera set up, you can go to change to video on the same camera and it'll be buffering the photos or buffering the video.
Yeah.
And it goes, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet.
Wow.
And that is probably the scariest moment for a hybrid. And you have to make sure that the other camera is set to the same settings. So when I'm standing waiting for that confetti line, I've set camera on this hip to the same settings for photo and film. Like I know what settings I need to be at for the exposure to be right. So if I went to turn and this one buffered, I go, that's all right, I got this one. Because that's why we're shooting with 2 cameras the whole time. And that's probably the scariest moment, is when you look at the back of the camera and you go to turn it and it just goes, no, not yet. I'm not ready yet.
No. Yeah.
Because you're
so
going.
You have to buy super fast SD cards.
Yeah, that helps for sure. And I have spent a bit more money over the last 6 months on investing on some faster cards.
Yeah.
But also knowing that if you are planning to video and you have to swap quickly, that you've got your other camera ready to pick that up. And that, if they're going to be walking towards you and you've got this one on the 85 and then you're like, oh no, they're here, which is where actually this has been really useful, because I can go, whoop, zoom right back out. Okay, we're okay, it's fine, nobody panic.
28 to 70 is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's about kind of like anything with weddings, knowing what's coming so that you can be prepared.
Yeah, and that's what our experience has given us, isn't it? We kind of like know generally what's going to happen. Obviously, some things happen now and again that we don't expect, but majority of the time, yeah. And your grade, I love your grade, but I'm assuming, are you trying to match your photo grade to your video grade? Is that
Yeah, so I feel like such a fraud when it comes to colour grading. I have watched YouTube videos on LUTs and colour grades and making sure I get my white balance right and skin tones, and I understand it enough, but I do not do anything apart from edit my video in Final Cut as it comes straight out of camera.
Yeah.
To be a file, like a dot.
And when you, on the day itself, are you filming in a particular profile, or is it just a standard? Yeah.
No, don't ask me too many technical questions, Rue. You'll make me look stupid. So no, I keep it as simple as I can. And this is something that Camera Hannah taught me on that course in 2017, was pull your video file into Lightroom, add your preset, export it, and it will look like your photos.
Okay, so at what point are you editing the film, then put it in Lightroom?
Yeah.
So you're not doing it to every clip. You're doing that. This is the final.
I do it. I sprinkle my preset on everything. I have 3 versions of my preset. So if I have a church that's like bright orange, I have a preset that's called Indoors to Orange. And I might put that preset across the whole thing and then have to edit those clips together. So like the one that's got my general preset on, and then one where the colours aren't looking great. 95% of the time, my preset against all of my clips work because I edit with that in mind. I mean, I shoot with that in mind. So I think it's one of those, like, I'm a photographer who's making highlight films, not a videographer who needs to have the kind of expertise of making sure color grading is perfect.
Well, it looks great, so it doesn't matter, does it? It doesn't matter how we're doing it. But I'm trying to get my head around this. I can't. I've not clicked onto it yet. So you create the film. You create the film in its entirety, do you?
Yes.
Export it.
Yes.
Stick it in Lightroom as a
Literally,
video file.
I drag it into my Lightroom, and it will say on import, add what preset, and you say add this one, please. And then it comes in, and once it's in Lightroom, there's no chance to play with any of the sliders. It like grays everything out. It's not like you can then kind of go, oh, well, the exposure needs changed, or I can play with the contrast, the black. It literally adds it as is. And then you can look through it like at speed, like if you kind of pull the dragger across, it will kind of flash up, and I can go, roughly, that looks now more like my photos do. Then I export it, and I upload it to kind of Vimeo and Pixieset when I send their photos and stuff over. And every now and again, and I've had to say this to lots of people who have done my course, some of my clips may look a little oversaturated or not quite as I want them to. They last a second or two.
Yeah.
And I don't overthink it, because I'm not trying to create something that is like every clip needs to color match so perfectly. As long as my clips work the same with my preset, they look great next to each other. And I've never had a client say, your magentas are a bit off, or the skin tone looks a little orange. Like, no one's looking for it apart from people like us. And even photographers and videographers who have admired my work and contacted me and said, how the hell do you make your videos look so close to your photos? And I go, just use Lightroom.
I did not expect
They're
that
like
to be the answer. Yeah.
And I feel like it's one of those, like, I almost feel like it's a dirty secret that, like, I feel like slightly embarrassed to go, well, I just put it through Lightroom like I do my pictures. But I don't feel embarrassed to say I put my photos through Lightroom and add my preset, because that's really normal.
So you going, before you export then, are you, in terms of exposure, are you changing exposure in any clips on your film before you export it, so that
not unless I've really messed up on a clip and it looks, I tend to try and make sure that I obviously with film you cannot play with exposure quite in the same way as we're lucky with photos to kind of have a play. So I try and make sure that that's one thing I'm really keeping a close eye on when it comes to filming, and making sure that my dial's right center so that I'm not too dark or too bright. And then my preset doesn't seem to get particularly upset by it.
Oh, sound, yeah.
Is that
super interesting?
Is it weird, isn't it? I feel like it's like there's moments like that where I feel like, oh, I'm not really, is that a legit thing to say to like be a bit like when I was editing in iMovie, that I felt like almost it wasn't good enough to be charging somebody when you're editing in a program that everybody had on their computer. But like, just because everyone has an oven doesn't mean we're all the same level of chefs, you know? Like, and I kind of, I feel pretty comfy in the fact that so many people love my videos.
And that's what it's about. But what is so evident from chatting is it's important to you that your video is bringing your photos to life. And for that to happen, you want there to be consistency in how the shots are.
I mean, if there is a videographer out there who could create a LUT that matches my photos, I'll pay you. So come get in touch. Because I have tried I've downloaded so many different LUTs and had a play with what that looks like on my footage, and it never looks like my pictures.
If you can get a wedding film done in 2.5 days, you don't need to be changing anything.
I know that sounds real. And that's what I've said to the people, like when people go, oh, that you're not charging enough. And I'm like, for me, that feels like it's value for money for the couple. It's value enough for me that I feel like, I mean, obviously I've got to pay for the song. I pay for Final Cut. It's more of my time. But it fills up my happy cup.
Yeah, and the way I found out about you, Hannah, is a good friend of mine, Jonathan Coates, went on your hybrid course and teaching people how to shoot
right,
hybrid.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're besties, me and Jonathan. And yeah, I just wondered if you can talk us through what you teach, what your course is all about, because I know there are a lot of people out there, especially photographers, that would like to add a bit of video into their packages.
Yeah, I don't want videographers that are watching this to feel like I'm taking away any of their work. It feels like so much pressure to be on a video podcast and be like, boo, stop taking our clients. But this is for the client who can't afford to spend both on both. And to be fair, there's no reason why videographers couldn't be doing both.
Yeah.
You know, like learn how to do enough photos that some people who want an amazing video but go, we want a handful of couple shots, a few group shots, and a shot of me and the bridesmaids, and that's all I want for photos. Like, there could be videographers that decide to like be a hybrid but in a different way to how I do it, you know, and kind of make an uplift on their own sales to add in kind of some photography as well as doing a great video for people too. So probably once every couple of months somebody on Instagram messages me going, you ever going to run a course about how you do photos and film? And I thought, I had one person who'd messaged me saying, could I do a day 1-to-1 with you and just pick your brain? And I'm such a perfectionist that I started writing the slides just for that photographer.
Oh, no way.
So
So
I
for a
was like,
one-on-one mentoring, you
yeah,
create a
yeah.
whole
I was
course.
like, okay, this is not to write a course, but this is so I'm organized and I'm ready that when I meet with
Yeah.
this person, I don't just go blah, 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 and there isn't structure to what I say for a highlight film course. So I'll blame them. And because they said to me, I've booked a wedding where they've asked me to do both. I need to know enough. And I was like, okay, let me start structuring a course or at least some slides where I've written some top tips and I've got some ideas of what things I could tell you. And my teacher brain got excited.
Oh no.
And I wrote
And there's no
100.
stopping it once that
I
part
was
of the
like,
teacher brain wants to.
the hyper-focused mind kicked in. And over like about a 10-day period in January into February, I wrote about 140 slides. I put clips of different weddings where I'd written how to do like best tips for bridal prep and best tips for confetti and group shots and how I manage the whole of the day, what kit I use, how I edit, how I pick a song, what I give back to couples. I'd kind of like had this whole like thing, and then I was like, this is more, I've written too much for like just to deliver this to one person. Like this has taken me the best part of 2 weeks of spilling my brain and trying to like pull video clips and then align them with the photos from the same moment to show
Yeah.
somebody this is what it looked like in my head in video and this is the photos they got back of the same moment. And so I'd collated all of this and I put on Instagram, I've started writing a course. Does anyone be interested? Really not thinking that like I put up one reel and thought, I'm going to say like there's a, if you're interested, comment below. And 24 people in 24 hours said,
Wow.
I'm in. And I was like, whoa, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa. Oh God, I'm going to have to do this now. And obviously when you start asking then people for money and setting dates, not everyone can make it. It might be too expensive for people. But I've now run that particular course 4 times with 8 people at each course. And your friend who came along, I think to the second one, maybe, I can't remember.
Possibly, yeah.
People who have come along, quite a lot of them within days were making videos of their families and their kids at home. We did some filming on the day, practical, and then edited that on the day, so we could kind of have a little bit of play with that too.
Okay, so you are actually filming on the course
Yeah,
itself as well, and doing.
On the course day, it's like 10 till 4. First half an hour of kind of like, let's have a chat. Where is everybody at? Then I talk through all the equipment that I use, what people might need to buy to add to their kit list, which isn't a huge amount. Most of the people that are there already have 2 cameras at least, a dozen lenses. Most of the people that came along to the course had been in wedding photography for 7 to 10 years. They're not really newbies. But it was like, what skills do you already have that you need to add to? What things might you need to think about to kind of manage being able to do both parts, both photos and film? I talk through all the settings that I shoot at. And some people who own, some really good cameras that do great video had never even switched it. They were like, oh, I maybe once filmed my desk when I first opened my camera, but I haven't touched it since. And then other people had done maybe 1 or 2 wedding videos or videoed their kids and hadn't ever thought about using it as something that they could make more money at. So some of it was kind of talking through settings and how to shoot. And how to shoot and so that you could do slow-mo afterwards, we talked a bit about color grading and LUTs and using Lightroom to perhaps kind of make their pictures and their photos marry up. And then I ran through every single part of the day in kind of like split into little sections of kind of top tips for each bit. With everything that I did, I created a course booklet that they could take away with all of those.
Okay, yeah. So
Top
they've almost
tips.
got
So
a reference when they leave the course.
Yeah, and I made a tick list that was like a story marker part of the day. So like, make sure you get an establishing shot of the building. Make sure you get in the same way that if in old school when we would create wedding albums, we'd go, okay, right, the first 3 pages will be details, bridal prep, flowers, shoes, whatever it is. It was kind of like a tick list to make sure if you've got every single one of these shots, you've got enough to make a video.
Yeah. So they're coming away from this workshop not only with like like learning the skills, but you're giving them a blueprint on how to get out there and start shooting these days as well.
My ethos was, as you leave this room, you will have enough knowledge. Hopefully I've instilled enough confidence in how to handle both moments and how to handle and educate your couples. And also, we will have practiced some video. So the first two, I had a friend who's a magician come along and he did some magic and people filmed him. So that was great. He was, throwing cards in the air and doing magic tricks. And some of it was about reactions and almost like you'd film people during candids of wedding reception. And then the last two that I did, I borrowed a couple of wedding dresses and got some models to come and be a bride.
Okay, yeah.
Because I was like, okay, I need to keep upping this and elevating it. And so we recorded that. And the last course that I did, I invited people to stay a little bit later and I hooked up my computer to the TV and they watched me pull in the clips that I'd just taken of this particular person in the wedding dress. And I said, look, here's a piece of music, watch me edit. And I made like a 30-second trailer of the model, slow-mo, fast, moving in the dress, detail shots, panning down. I was like, climb inside my brain and see, I'll explain why I'm making these decisions and why I'm putting this particular beat together. And then for each of the groups that I've done, I've created a WhatsApp group. So since each one of the courses, everyone supported each other, sent clips of, videos that they've made either of their kids. And now I would probably say 50% of the people that have come on the course are making money from videos.
Brilliant. Yeah, so you're getting them out there. You're getting people to be able to add income.
Well, the point of the course was like, I thought I have to price it at a point where you could almost make your money back in 1 or 2 weddings. If you're willing to put the work in and willing to, trial it, you've got weddings, you've got couples, you've got no excuses. The only excuse is you want it to be perfect. But if you put off trying it because perfection is the goal, you'll never start anything, right?
Yeah.
We've talked about faking it to make it for podcasts and videos, and I'm very much out of my comfort zone doing something like this, but I was out of my comfort zone running the course, and it was I was on such an emotional high every single one of those courses that I finished. And I felt like Mama Bear, who was like proud of all of her little cubs, that people had walked into that room with no idea how to video or put anything together as an edit. 3 days later, were messaging the group saying, I've just done a branding sheet for a midwife workshop and I've made this 1-minute video for her. She's blown away. And I was like, I'm blown away. This is incredible.
That's brilliant.
So yeah, I feel also I'm creating my own little army of people I can call upon if I need a second shooter.
Yeah. Self-serving one.
I'm like that, come here, I need you all. Let's go.
Are there any kind of, I always ask this, anyone that does kind of any mentoring or kind of workshops, are there any kind of common mistakes that you see people make when they first try and create these hybrid films? Is there any common themes?
I think lots of people think that when you video something, you should be moving. There's lots of I'm going to pan this way and then up and down and then keep moving things around. And it took me a while to realise the action can move, you don't have to, especially for a 2-second clip. So almost, even if you set it up and you say to the bridesmaids or flower girls, I want you to run from there to there, and they run out of the shot, into the shot and out of the shot, and you stay still, that's kind of a better thing to do than following them.
Yeah.
And I think when you first start, if you pan and move for everything, a 3-minute video can make you feel very seasick because it just feels like everything is twisted and moved. And I think the trying to anchor yourself to stay still seems to be something that people come back to me all the time, go, my shots are really wobbly. And I'm like, yeah, my shots might have been a 1-second clip that I've changed to slow-mo to 2 seconds. Don't think that it has to be a 7-second clip that maintains. I watch a wedding video, and when I cull it and when I'm editing, I try and watch it thinking, has my brain understood what's happening in this second? Have I gained enough from the footage to know that she's putting her shoe on Okay, great, move on. And then so many times I've seen people do highlight films and there's like a 12-second clip of the groomsmen doing the same thing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
give me something new, please.
Move it on.
We got it. I got it. I got it. And that probably is one of the things that, advice-wise, that I give to people is kind of keep that, make sure you have enough variety so that you can keep changing it. Don't feel you have to video for a minute and a half.
No. Yeah.
Because then you feel like
6 seconds is enough for me.
Yeah.
Like each clip.
Yeah, I say 5 to 7 seconds is most of my clips. And then you won't feel like you're missing the photos.
No, that's right. Yeah, because then you got that other element. You've got to start thinking about photos as well. So it makes sense to keep everything fast, doesn't it?
Yeah, once you've got it and you've got enough of it, you may not get a chance to get it again. So get it right the first time. And that is scary when it's your first go at trying something. But I've said to anyone who's been on the course, film your kids on a day out to whatever, like Legoland. Or my favourite video I've ever taken is my kids on Christmas Day, the Christmas before lockdown. And it's a 2.5-minute video where I thought, oh, do you know what? I'm just going to video. I don't want to take photos on Christmas Day because I stopped them from doing things. I just want to video little clips and I'll smash something together. And you will never regret having video of your closest, nearest and dearest. Whether you choose to share it, whether you choose to do anything with it. So like your grandparents, if you still have them around, or your parents, do a couple shoot for your parents. Get them to walk around a venue and video some, or get some audio of them. Even get them to talk into a mobile phone about each other and put that audio on the top of it. You're never going to regret having that footage.
Nah, and it'll get more and more valuable with every passing day as well.
You know, so...
like our films do.
Well, yeah, there is that. And I kind of think there's so much now with content being key. And I joke, everything is content. But even if you're a wedding photographer who doesn't want to do highlight films, but you want to up your reels game.
Yeah.
Videoing a little bit of, you know, flower girl spinning is a great way to put at the beginning of a reel to then flick through loads of photos.
Yeah, and because I feel like video just gets people's attention sooner anyway, doesn't it? Then, if a slideshow comes up with photos, I think I'm disinterested pretty much straight away.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I think you can use it to your advantage, whether you choose to add it into your packages or not. But most of the people that have done the course that are charging £500-600 already for their videos. Yeah. And some of them, you know, like are nailing it straight out. And I was like, cool, mine didn't look this good for like 5 years. You only came on a 1-day course, damn you all. I'm like, shit, I need to make sure I keep upping my game if I'm going to be the teacher. But I think I've kind of, I don't know, thrown away some myths for some of them. I think a lot of people felt like they needed way more knowledge than they do about certain things that you don't need to know. I don't know how everything in Photoshop works. I still use Photoshop every day. Yeah.
And say our video is very much like that. It's very technically based initially, it seems, or people throw all these technical things at you. But what I found when I moved over to video is that if I just completely disregard a lot of those myths, if I just all those kind of suggestions people telling me to do, I just tried to find my own way in it, and I soon found that I can break a lot of these rules and I still get great films.
No, and I think the more you don't overthink it, the more you can enjoy it and kind of keep that, like, slow the time down and be part of what you're there to do, which is tell the story of the day and watch it and kind of like breathe it in with them.
Amazing. Hannah, honestly, some incredible content. Thank you. Content.
Everything is content.
Thank you so much for your time today and for your insight. It's been incredible. And I've learned a lot myself. Where can people find you? Where's the best place for people to find you and to learn more about your course as well?
So I'm every day on Instagram, like a crazy person who's like, hi, I'm still here, I'm still busy. So that is Hannah.MacGregor, which is MAC, .photo.film. longest one you could think of, but I was trying to, how do I get it all in? So hannah.macgregor.photo.film. My website is hannahmacgregor.co.uk.
And your workshop, is there links to that on your website? Or?
Do you know what? I didn't have to advertise it a huge amount to fill it. So I need to create a page on my website to showcase some new dates. I ran 4 in February, March and April. And then I said, I'm too busy over the summer season to try and find the time to do this and give it my all. And I don't want to do it unless I'm really delivering. So, excuse me, I will likely run them again in November and December, and perhaps a couple in January next year too.
But you'll be announcing that on socials if it's not on your website when it's
it'll be on Instagram once I get to a point where I'm ready to release some more dates.
Awesome. Thank you ever so much again. And
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Coda Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and wouldn't mind helping us out, please consider leaving a rating and a review wherever you get your podcasts. We have many more conversations with inspiring filmmakers still to come, so make sure to subscribe to be notified when the next episode goes live.